Hey, Donald.
Yep.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you all for coming again. Thank you all for your patience as we work through this. I am going to. My budding career as a streamer has made a giant step forward. I have installed OBS, and I am attempting to record this in its entirety correctly this time. Uh, Although I don't trust myself. So, does anyone here mind trying to record as well, just to make sure we actually get a reasonable video of this? Brilliant. Thank you. We'll see. Eventually, I will get on top of this, and I will be able to have these things working. Awesome. Good. We are here again. We have thanks everyone who gave presentations the last time. Uh, there was a lot of discussion internally around this already. A lot of really terrific ideas, and it's been incredibly helpful. I have one person. I need to help one of our folks get into the Discord call. So just give me 1 second. But yes, today is going to be more presentations, and we'll see, maybe a little discussion. But I'm hoping we can get through most of everybody's perspectives today, and then next week, I definitely am looking forward to a very good discussion with folks. Let's see, let me try to get this person in. I will do this kind of in parallel here because I want us to get off the ground quickly. We did introductions last time, and let's see. And I think we got through most people. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but is there anyone new to the channel that didn't get a chance to introduce themselves? If you didn't and you'd like to, this is your opportunity. All right. Wait, go ahead. Okay. Okay. That is short and sweet. I love it. Great. All right, I am going to try to add one more person here, and then we will kick this off. Bear with me. Okay. Okay, excellent. Hopefully they will get in any case, we're recording it, so if they don't, they'll just watch the beginning part on their own. Fabulous. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thank you again for joining. And yeah, we're gonna chat some more. We're gonna hear some more from folks from the community. And I guess I am just gonna open it up. I know a few folks have said they have presentations they want to give. So first come, first serve. Who wants to talk first?
I could go.
All right, you are the brave one. Please go ahead, take the screen. Awesome. I have it up.
All right. I think that add-ons on paper are very capable tools for creating cool like functionality and additional things for the game. But the language chosen for the scripting API is pretty limited in that there's a lot of performance issues when attempting to do complex things in it. Like if you wanted to create a system similar to something, say, like Redstone, you couldn't have too complex of components or players couldn't make too complex of builds or else you would start having a lot of lag. due to the stuff being ran in QuickJS, which isn't a very fast scripting language. The issue that I want to solve is that with these performance issues, it means add-ons kind of fall apart whenever you're going to larger projects. Something that would potentially solve this issue is either replacing or adding a new, faster scripting language to the add-on system. Personally, I would choose AngelScript as a replacement because it's designed for this kind of thing, though I expand into that a little bit later. We need a fast language to be able to create heavy, complex backends for add-ons. One of the things that I liked heavily about plugins is that you could make things run really fast. You could very heavily focus on making very complex things that would run smoothly for players without causing performance issues just to have it. I mean, could some of the extreme options that could solve this issue would be Mojang going to the extreme and creating their own new mod loader, like making their own BDSX. The problem is this would add more stress on the developers, as it would be a completely new system on top of a lot of the existing stuff. And modders can't convert to using the existing add-on API because QuickJS isn't a very fast engine. It doesn't allow for you to have complex backends to your add-ons. It limits options in terms of what could be added to the add-on API because whenever you add an event, there's just a level of performance overhead created by doing that due to it having to talk to the JS engine. And it could also potentially lead to technical debt because if you continue to invest in QuickJS, you're investing in an engine that creators can't really be fully creative with. So you might end up in a situation where you have to do over even more work later down the line than changing it now where the issue has been seen. Implementing a new scripting language is what I believe the best middle ground option would be. We could choose a language that's more designed for the use case of being used for modding and is focused on being fast and easy to use in terms of interacting with stuff in the game. My suggestion is AngelScript. It's a scripting language designed to have similar syntax to C++. This would mean the developers of the game already have a little bit of experience in coding with it. It's also designed to be used for a modding system. The language itself was made to be added to an application made in C++ to create an extension system for it. It's something that would already be made to fit into something to be made to create extensions for that thing. The benefits of this is that having the faster performance would allow for lower level APIs in add-ons themselves. Something like a packet API or Redstone API or having some events related to super low level terrain generation. Like if you wanted some code to fire whenever it attempted to place a structure, if you had that on the existing add-on API, it would be slow because you'd be converging the generation into one thread and it would start tanking a lot of the performance. But if you have something like AngelScript, you could do that stuff on other threads. There's also a lower performance overhead when adding new things to the add-on API, so you could simply just have more things in the API. As it exists as is, like I had mentioned earlier, there's performance issues that come from adding things with the speed issues with QuickJS. More complex add-ons such as redstone level block interactions without causing a drop in TPS. It indirectly allows for more complex interactions between add-ons by simply being faster. It creates a joined ecosystem for client/server mods and is built on the existing add-on API. With the new language, you wouldn't have to completely throw all the work away that's been done. The developers were really smart when they were creating the system, and everything is so heavily wrapped that it's designed for the language to be able to be swapped out without having to completely overthrow all the work that's done. It just requires fitting a new language into the existing wrappers that they had made. There's some compromises that we might have to make because this is such a fairly large ask to be doing either a massive change or a massive extension to the add-on API like this. Due to just various restrictions, like maybe console manufacturer licenses or just whatever random stuff might come up that I might not know from my perspective. It might have to be something that would be exclusive to the BDS or to the editor so that it's only ran on PC, which wouldn't be ideal as Amethyst is a mod client that is being damaged by the removal of the PDB, so there would still be a path that isn't replaced by this option. The new language might not replace the existing QuickJS option. It may be something that would go in as a side to the existing QuickJS so that it doesn't require marketplace teams to have to replace all of the stuff that they've put down for scripting. It being an addition would also mean you would have something similar to what I had with BDSX. With if AngelScript was chosen, you would have a language very similar to a native programming language, and you would have that programming learning path from developing in a scripting language that's not super strict about types. You can be a bit more loose with how you're coding stuff, and then evolve into something that's more strict and more accurate to what you might be doing in a professional setting. The new language might just have to be another JS engine. QuickJS isn't great, and JS in general isn't great. However, there are faster JS engines. Whenever you start getting up there, though, you see more higher resource limits, and for the most part, you don't see any actual threading. You'll have some stuff that's similar, but it would be something through Node, and I don't think Node is something that would be added due to just how open it is. It's still a middle ground option, as if you switch to another JS engine, you don't have to change the existing API, as the underlying engine can be swapped without the syntax of the code itself having to change. And that's all I've got to cover for this. I think it would be really cool to see a new, faster option. While I think it would be cool to be able to provide the resources for developing a tool, I also personally was mostly interested in developing plugins and just content for mods and stuff. I didn't necessarily personally like I was working on a tool, but I would have preferred to just have the tool that I was working on to already exist if I had something powerful like add-ons with a language option that would let me write something complex to use the cool features in add-ons, then I feel like that by itself would be a pretty good solution to the death of projects like BDSX, Levy Lamina, and Endstone, and even potentially Amethyst if this could be added to the client.
This is fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's going a little bit broader, but that's totally fine. And I think we need to have all these discussions around potential solutions. I'm not familiar with AngelScript personally, but now it's on my list. I'm gonna go check it out after this call.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. Good stuff. Who's next?
That would be the next one. I'd like to talk about the native API.
Sure.
Uh,
Please take control.
and and hello everyone. I'm going to talk about the native API on behalf of Leaf Llama team. Let's dig into how modding actually works. I think there are actually 4 key components to be considered: Bedrock server itself, the native API, and the high-level wrappers, which may something like the Endstone project or the Leaf Llama project or BDXX, and also some native modes that directly build on the native API. Also, we have many plugins, which it can be written in any language. To be clear, the native API here refers to the C++ API. I think the server is written in C++, and using this for modding is one of the most convenient and effective approach. As you can see, the native API serve as the foundation of everything. It provides essential infrastructure for modding. And last week, my team members introduced Endstone and Llama projects, and these wrappers interact directly with the native APIs inside the Bedrock server. So there are many ways to create modding or plugins, but the importance of native API lies in its direct access to everything. Unlike other methods that maybe rely on a scripting engine such as translator, this direct access enable us to develop high-performance plugins with minimal impact on tick time. It also eliminates the need to emulate language features, which can be particularly challenging since C++ is such a complex language. And what's more, the native API allows us to interact with other components on the system and modify any game logic to meet our special needs. These capabilities make it invaluable tools for developers who require both performance and flexibility in their molding effects. With all the great features come with native API, molding can be effectively supported support the entire Bedrock community. First, we'll be able to respond timely to community's demand and introduce new features based on their needs. The modding community can also be adopted the rolling update approach, allowing us to push new updates and frequently release hotfixes and patches in time. What's more, diving into the code enable us to create better tools for multiple usage and enhance proxy and other custom server implementations. Also, we can create many things if we have native API, like the extension for the current script API, and establish an API extract layer for stable API, paper bindings, and even we can emulate the full bucket API. Furthermore, if the community can get enough debug information, that this native API allows us to optimize the game and document inner mechanics and protocols. And I'm sure if we can work together, this optimization and documents can be merged into the code base and enhancing experience for all players. I understand there are many concerns about the debug info, which is what we currently use to discover, to access, and understand those native APIs. However, the removal of debug info is one-size-fits-all policy, and it really impacts our large-scale modding and has little effect on this intended to creating cheap clients. To be honest, I understand in making debug info public, that's come with concerns. But I do believe security through obscurity is simply removing them is not a good choice. If it is really unacceptable, perhaps we can implement something like API allow list or damn list. Instead of removing everything, we could control API exposure more precisely. We could select some certain APIs be visible or invisible to the public. In conclusion, we can create a public subset of APIs. Since the hashing process is irreversible, it's safe to provide these address methods. And this approach is easy to migrate, allowing modding projects to migrate with minimal changes and take advantage of existing toolchain. Furthermore, with your help, we can make modding and research internal logic accessible to everyone. We can simplify the process by exporting metadata such as layouts and virtual function tables orders, and export it directly from the debug symbol with the protection of allow list or list. And also, if we can work together, some community teams can even sign NDAs to access debug builds and create more complex modes or high-level wrappers with amazing features. I'm really pleased to introduce my teams and express our enthusiasm to cooperate with you and the entire community. Our team includes members skilled in modding and includes the founder of Bucket Project and those experienced in computer vision and algorithms. We also developed many powerful toolchains and modes to enhance the experience for modding. Thank you for your time and attention. If you want to discuss any about our native API solution, please feel free to contact any of our team members. And we are looking forward to contributing our skills and working together to build a better modding community. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. And yeah, this aligns well with some of the thinking that we've had internally. And I mean, a lot of issues here, the close communication and having a good feedback loop seems to be one of the fundamental things that we really need to work better on. I have questions I'm already queuing up, but we'll see how far we get today with how many presentations are left. Let me toss it out again to anyone who would like to talk for a bit.
Yeah, we can go.
All right, please.
Okay. Hello, I'm Liam. I'm the project manager at Orville Studios. In case you don't know who we are, we're a marketplace partner team. So we mostly focus on sort of really high quality marketplace projects. We really like to take the game engine and do as much as we can with it. So we're obviously very, very interested in finding new and interesting ways of doing cool stuff with Bedrock. So we've come up with a bit of a proposal to replace the debug symbols. So what we're proposing is a robust and flexible official plugin framework for BDS as a replacement for the debug symbols. So the goal would be to provide a solution that's well received by both the community and Mojang. To go through some of the more specifics about how we would do that, I am going to pass it over to Aaron King from our technical team.
Awesome. Thank you, Liam. Yeah, I guess I'll jump right into it. So, overview. Historically, bedrock modification has been a very challenging endeavor to say the least. Some of the current setbacks include the lack of official first-party support, the reluctance within the community to share reverse engineering insights. So, currently, projects often rely on closed source tools to enable said modifications, and the barrier of entry for developer skills required is very high. The modding ecosystem suffers from fragmentation, where developers are drawn in many different ways with various frameworks that differ in usage and feature set. We'd like to change this with an official community-driven framework where we can all make a contribution. This can be done by allowing the community to create issues or pull requests through GitHub or Mojang's bug tracker. It enables Mojang to review and implement changes without releasing sensitive information, including symbols or source code. So an API would allow Mojang to implement features as they see fit while maintaining community involvement. So our proposal consists of two key concepts, the API itself and the implementation. The API is a developer-facing set of stubs and interfaces that the community can direct and suggest modifications to. The implementation will be developed internally at Mojang and will serve as the bridge between plugins and BDS. First and foremost, first-party support. So with an API that's officially supported by Mojang, developers will have access to up-to-date resources and documentation. The API itself will be designed to be user-friendly, enabling developers of any skill level to create plugins. We believe that the two-way communication between Mojang and the community will foster an API that will meet the needs of developers through public engagement. And on top of all that, the API will allow Mojang to allow modifications while keeping their code safe. They'll have the final say to keep the implementation compatible with the BDS codebase. And finally, having feature parity with frameworks commonly used in Java Edition will encourage developers to share their creativity with Bedrock players. So key features. Ideally, the API will have a familiar design that will incorporate some of the best features and design decisions from other APIs that we're familiar with, like Spigot, Forge, and Fabric. So this will facilitate porting over plugins developed for APIs in Java Edition dedicated servers. Dependency injection is a really cool design pattern that can allow for a seamless development experience where stuff just kind of works. It's a great way of providing interfaces and dependencies to plugins without effort from the plugin developer themselves. The plugin loader and the event manager will serve as an interface to the game and other loaded plugins. Official documentation for the API can guide developers on best practices So for the language, we've chosen C Sharp because it's a great intermediate option between a native language like C++ and scripting languages like JavaScript. So compared to C++, it has a much easier learning curve while providing much better performance over scripting languages. C Sharp also has a fairly similar syntax and set of features compared to Java, so developers from the Java ecosystem will feel right at home. C Sharp has a well-established set of pre-existing libraries and tools provided by the open source community. This API will serve a different purpose than the current scripting API as it's not subject to the same constraints as client releases on platform app stores. Ideally, the two can be used in tandem to create some awesome multiplayer experiences. So, we've made a couple mock-up examples of what working with the API might look like. So, game objects will be exposed to the developer in the form of interfaces and abstract classes. The plugin dependencies and exposed interfaces can be injected by the plugin loader and made readily available on plugin enable. The plugins, they can use C-sharp attributes to pass metadata about itself to the plugin loader and register event handlers. Anyone who's used Reflection in Java will appreciate its power and flexibility. Of course, this is just an example of what it may look like, and changes may be made by Mojang or open source contributors. So, overall, we feel that an official API is the best route to take to satisfy everybody's needs. We have enthusiastic developers who would love to create something cool in Bedrock multiplayer. It is integral for Mojang to secure their source code and other sensitive information, and we believe that this approach addresses most major concerns that both parties have, and in turn fosters collaboration and creativity. We understand that there may be frustration with current maintainers of open source projects. However, given constraints that are ultimately set in stone, we believe that this is the best path going forward where we can continue to work constructively. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hey, that's plenty. Thank you, Orville, for joining in on this, sharing your perspectives here. All right, doing well. Good time today. Let's keep going. I think I got at least a couple more. Anyone else want to go next? Mm, quiet. Is Alex on here? No, I talked to Alex and he had shared some information. I was hoping he could share some of it. I thought he had
Hello,
some.
I'm here.
Oh, brilliant. Would you like to share a little bit some of the things that we talked about?
I can talk, but I'm unable to present a presentation at the moment, if that's fine.
All right. Did you make did you share a version in the Prezzo channel?
Yeah, I did.
Let me see. Maybe I can pull it up and then you can talk to it. Give me one moment here. You can just let me know when you want to forward.
I'm also unable to see it
Oh
because,
no.
well, I don't have. Yeah, if
All
you
right.
maybe just can pick the screen and then just tell the title, I could then probably talk about it.
Okay, sure. I can try to do
It's
that.
fine.
One moment. Let's see.
Because I had a different
No.
presentation.
Oh my gosh, hold on a second. Let's see. Let me try again. it. Alex, Andy. Salamez. Oh, you know what? Yes, I had the wrong one up. Give me one moment. Let's see. All right, let's try this again. We're at Microsoft and Community Bedrock servers together. And first slide is, how do we server software folks see this?
Yeah, right. So I could probably start by mentioning that there's also a different community than just Bedrock modders. So we are basically a community which creates our own server software, basically an alternative to BDS. And we've been around for quite some time. Probably the most famous server software is PocketMine. And so this slide is basically about what's been our current frustrations, and it's mostly lack of the communication. And a good example could be that if we sometimes talk about something, usually we voice our opinions and they kind of get ignored or they kind of get lost. So that's why.
Yep. No, and this is just echoing what we hear. And yeah, now why are most of us skeptical? I appreciate all the frankness here. Please talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of similar to what I mentioned. Basically, lack of the communication, and if we said something's wrong, if we pointed out some issues, usually we might even get a response that yes, we are aware of it, but nothing really happened, and that's probably the main cause of the frustration. Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's in short it.
Yeah, I think it is, and you know, again, communication. We really need dedicated channels. We will see. CDN resource packs, giving some examples of this.
Sure. So in the past, maybe a suggestion that we wanted a cool future in the game, which in this case is to download resource packs through HTML. And as a community, we talked about it for some time. It's been already implemented for a very long time in Minecraft Java, but it wasn't added to Minecraft Bedrock until recently, and it only happened after some more trusted um, partner server suggested it. So even though as a community we had this idea for quite some time, it didn't happen until it was suggested by someone more trusted, someone you could say maybe with more credit than just open source community.
Yep, yep. And we're the hash block palette, which I think is along the same lines. Like we provided the hash block palette, but we didn't provide any documentation from it.
Yes, correct. That's basically maybe an example of a good change that was initialized by Mojang, but we were basically just told that this future is here, but we weren't told how to use it. And if we asked how to do so, we were just told that we cannot get this information, so we had to rely on PDB symbols.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This is example assets.
Mm-hmm. So this is basically so the game has different file assets, which can be just simple mappings from let's say a block identifier to integer, which represents its item variant. And so these are kind of assets we need to obtain from the game in order to work with our server software. And the problem is that there currently isn't any other way to get these assets than using BDS mods. So we either have to rely on partners which are able to share these assets with us, or then we can just use BDS mods, which seems to be no longer an option.
Yep. All right, and here we go. How might this be solved?
Yep. So probably the first point is that there needs to be some kind of improvement in communication, whether it's through some direct channels to Mojang employees, Minecraft developers, or just maybe doing some regular meetings where we can get feedback on what we suggest and vice versa. Um, then of course, just doing more documentation. I don't know if there's something more I mentioned on the slide.
No, just that the NDA was
Oh
not
yeah,
better things than the NDA.
but maybe just a single sentence to it. That problem with NDA is that not everyone is able to sign it. It takes away some freedom, and so yeah, I don't think that's a way to do it.
Yeah, and we agree. I have no desire to start up a huge NDA program. I think it'll be a big pain for everybody involved, and it doesn't really solve problems. Just makes communication harder, makes it harder for folks to know what it is they can and can't talk about. You have here, you just showed an example of the protocol docs, how we share the information, but yeah, without very much information at all. Unsigned variant
Yeah.
is not a great description. Um, yep, and just you have a slide, the problems with the current documentation.
Yeah. So as you could see on that picture, the current documentation is basically just HTML diagrams which symbol how packages are serialized, but usually there's um, no comments to each package field or maybe some explanation what it does. So using that example on the slide, you can, for example, see flags is just an integer, but we don't know what the flags in that package actually do and how that integer is created. So that's probably a good example of where one of the problems with current documentation is.
Yep. Ideas for improvements.
Um, so maybe the first idea for improvement could be that try to find a different format for the documentation. I suggested Markdown, I believe, which is very easy to edit. There are also some open source tools we use to convert currently shared documentation to a Markdown format. Um, Other suggestion was to find a ways how community could contribute to the documentation, because community already has some knowledge which is either shared on a lot of different places, or maybe it's not shared at all. So it could be nice to just write it down and have one place where it could be. Same probably for the game developers for Mojang or Microsoft. If it was in Markdown, I believe it would be easier for developers to just add comments, assuming the protocol docs are not just code, are just not generated from the source code, because that's also a problem.
Yep. Going to, let's see, you have the example of the current docs again, but I think you move on into how Java does it.
Yeah. So I think Minecraft Java is actually a good example of how this whole communication and protocol and everything could actually work out. Because on the slide, I believe there's just a simple example of the documentation created by Minecraft Java community. So it's actually maintained by open source folks. And yes, it's true that they have access to the source code, but they also have access to the actual game developers. They have the Discord called Minecraft Lounges, where they do regular meetings, they do catch ups, and they just talk about their problems with the developers. And just solve them. And that's very nice because, well, Mojang actually applies to them and gives them back some feedback, helps them with some issues if they have some.
Yeah, I'm chuckling over here. Yeah, it's so easy. Just communicate. It's just easy. Yeah, thank you. And then just examples of Bedrock the Java way.
Yeah, just in short, there's been basically an attempt from the community to create a
Yeah.
website for protocol documentation similar to Java, but it was abandoned because of the lack of the knowledge and information about updates.
Yep. Yep. It is. It's continuous, sustained support. Examples, it could work. This I think is an example of a document that an MS employee made at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just very short. In sometime in the past, there was this new feature called chunk caching, and it was, well, not that complicated, but it was nice to have some documentation. And a Mojang employee made a nice Markdown document. So that's an example of how it could work because, well, it worked out for the time.
Yep.
So it worked once, maybe it will work next time. That would be very nice. First.
Then talking about Markdown, easy to read and edit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just example of what we currently do. So we have this tool written in Java which takes in the currently shared protocol documentation and turns it into Markdown. So that's maybe an alternative way to go.
Yep, and thank you for adding in the link here to the protocol parser. I think folks have already started looking at that. And yeah, I think that is the presentation. Let me pop back over really quick. Appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate this. Just it's not a complete solution, but I think it talks just very focuses in on some of the short term, and that is one of my hopes here is that we have much bigger plans we need to figure out. But if we can figure out things in the short term that we can start to make progress, that will be very, very good way to get this whole project rolling. Lucy, are you on? You had there's some folks internally chatting. They were curious about the presentation you had that was talking about EULA changes, among other things. Do you want to present something? Sure. Yeah, and I can see IP Justice has come into the chat, and yeah, this might have been a mistake on our part, but this is exactly why we need to have these conversations to catch this stuff. But go ahead, please. You can share your presentation. Yeah. Oh, do you want to share the presentation or? No. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. No worries. Yes. Yeah, I think, and this is something I wanted to queue up, hopefully for our next call is to get some questions from the community, just as conversation starters here. I think all these are good. I don't know, uh, how deep I want us to get into it immediately. Starting with the EULA change, it sounds like this was possibly a mistake. So we have some immediate steps here. I know IP Justice is gonna, and I'll work with them and try to take a look into this and try to see what the story is with here, and we'll hopefully have an update for you on Monday, next Monday, or sooner. With the PDB question, I agree. I think this is one of the biggest challenges we have is like if we are going to provide access to information to a small group of people, I think it really needs to be in service of empowering the greater community. We don't want to create a closed ecosystem for only people who are selected by us get to mod. We want everyone to mod. So I do think there are middleware solutions that could potentially make this easier. But yeah, it is a deeper discussion for us to have. Just a question, is there anyone else on who hasn't had a chance to share their thoughts who would like to right now? Oh my gosh, we did it. Okay, we got to the end of information sharing. Thank you everyone who put stuff together. Just as a reminder, if you didn't share your presentation in the Prezos channel, please do. It just helps as we start looking at things offline to be able to go through everything that was shared. And yeah, the immediate next steps here, I'm going to be setting up time later this week to meet with folks just to synthesize all this. My hope is for the next meeting that we can actually have a meaningful conversation and have this be a little more interactive. And the goal will hopefully be just to start laying out some steps, at least some short-term steps, what we can do to, the number one concern for me is to help keep the community running. I really don't want to see projects shut down. Although I know this is all extremely awkward at this point and we're causing tons of problems, but hopefully we can mitigate that to some degree and thinking about how we can do that in the short term. And then, of course, building out a more long-term plan and something that, both the community and Mojang can commit to move us forward in this space. I want to allow a little time for the Mojang folks to sort of absorb all the information that folks have shared. So I don't want to get into big discussions right now, but we have a little bit of time, so I am going to throw one question out. I'm very curious what people think about this, and forgive me if this is just a ridiculous idea, but I am wondering, is there a way that we could potentially, just as a short-term fix to keep things running, um, is it possible to identify a subset of the information in the PDB, really strip out things that aren't needed, and really identify what are some of the core pieces of information that are required right now, so that we can try to do some sort of, I guess, limited release of information as just a stopgap while we continue to work together to develop broader plans. And I just opening it up to everyone. If you can tell me this is a very dumb idea, or tell me how we can do it. That either one is fine with me.
Hey, Donald, this is Reed. If you're looking for a stopgap solution, actually the easiest thing to do is to release the symbols in preview BDS. Would probably be like the quickest thing to do. That may make, modding the original or released BDS, that doesn't solve that problem, but it solves a lot of the problems about documentation, reverse engineering. It could even allow individual groups to still develop on like preview BDS until you actually have your set of true symbols released. And that's just I would think that would be an easy thing to fix in the release schedule of preview.
Yeah, I do understand that, and I agree, and I think that would be very easy in some ways. My main concern around it is that If we do that, we're essentially just going back to the situation we had before, where there's access to PDB, and there's not a lot of incentive on either side to do anything to change that. But you're welcome to convince me that's not the case if you'd like to.
No, I'm just saying it's the easiest.
Yeah, fair, fair. Any other thoughts on that right now?
I think that uh, with the PDB we were given, it was already stripped of a lot of the information that was already in it that would have helped easily create stuff like cheats, which is why this isn't doing a ton for that.
Yeah.
What you could do, there is still a little bit of extra info in the PDB, but you could like remove constants or something if you want to remove something from it,
Mm.
or could go through and see the whitelisted stuff, or even sorry if this is throwing you out, but Vincent with Endstone, he mentioned that he currently runs with only 50 symbols, could potentially see if maybe you could provide him with the ones that he needs so that Endstone could at least still exist.
Yeah, and is that value, I mean, to the broader community to keep Endstone running and get them what they need?
I think that having some form of tool up would be good. Also, it looks like he wants to talk, so I'll let him.
Yeah, please go ahead, Vincent.
Yeah, thanks. I just agree with the previous two talkers. And I think the easier ways to do now is just to release the PDB to somewhat of the existing projects, because you mentioned it's going to be a short-term solution, so it's not likely to there will be some new project emerging. But still, we can keep this existing project rolling without having to close the community at all. And in terms of the symbols we need, we only need like 50 symbols during the runtime, but still PDB5 provides us not only the symbols that is required for functionality, but more importantly, it provides the insight into the secret binary of BDS. So we need to know the broader context, like what function is connected to what in depth. So I think the easier way is to maybe provide the PDB for the moment in private to these community projects. I know there are a few projects has made the change, like Levi Damina, they have made a change that can encrypt the symbols to some extent, and MSS is doing some pattern matching, and Endstone is just using 50 symbols, so it shouldn't be a big problem here.
Okay, that is good input, although I'm getting talked down internally as well. I'm gonna walk away from this topic a little bit, but this is I think these are fabulous thoughts. It's like, can we provide some access? Can we provide to some people? It's not my ideal situation, but I just want to get it out there and just make sure that we're thinking through all the possible ideas here. We're at time. I have two more questions I wanted to ask, but I'm gonna wait because I don't want to start diving into this until we have time for to have a full conversation. So I think I'm going to close this down unless there's anyone who has any last thoughts before we go, and I'll give you back 5 minutes of your lives, and we can follow up a little bit through the Discord, and I'll open up I'm going to open up a Q&A channel. I don't know how totally responsive or how capable we will be of answering questions at this point because we don't know, but I want to at least start gathering some questions that can serve as conversation starters for the next meeting. And certainly we will talk next Monday. And we'll try to share some of our thoughts as well with you before that time, so you have things that you can think about how you want to respond to them. But any other thoughts before we go? Fabulous. Thank you everyone again for taking the time, both the Mojang folks and community here. Whoever it was that recorded things, please, if you can clean up the recording and share it, that's great. I'm going to see if my recording was any good. I have no idea. But we'll get some information here, and yeah, have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. And I'm seeing already some ideas here in the general chat. You can have it there. I'm going to open up that Q&A chat, that channel, at least so we can start capturing questions. We'll see if we get them answered before Monday. But in any case, thank you, everyone, and have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.